So you're probably wondering why I have a PowerPoint slide of CanFit Pro, but there is a story to that I want to share with you. In November 2022, my book called Restore Your Life, Powerful Life Strategies to Navigate Menopause went #1 in 4 categories on Amazon, which was quite obviously a game changer for me. And they say that we all have a story to tell, so I encourage you to do that for yourself, because we all have a lot of knowledge and expertise that we should really be sharing with a much broader audience that could really benefit from our teachings and our expertise. So fast forward to January 2023, I was online with my publisher, Suzanne, from the West Coast, and I asked her if she knew anyone in the fitness industry, because I said to her that would be such a good alignment for me with what I offer. So she said to me, I know Mo Hagan from Good Life Fitness, I will connect you with her. Within 24 hours, Mo Hagan, National Program Director for Good Life, she emailed me, kindly shared her story of going through menopause, and asked me to be a presenter at the CanFit Pro 30th Annual Conference in Toronto, at the Metro Toronto Convention Centre. And my point in telling you this story is twofold. Imagine if I'd never asked that question, because that was such a big game changer in my career to be part of CanFit Pro, and now they've invited me to go back again. So I just always say, ask for what you want. And I tell my children that. All they can say is yes or no. So the reason I'm repurposing this CanFit Pro presentation, but I had to really shrink it down, is because it was really well received. So I did my best to pull some really highlights out of that. When I did my presentation, I was really humbled and overwhelmed, to be honest. The venue opened at 11:30 in the morning, and I didn't expect people to be at my booth right away. And people actually told me that they came to that conference on Friday to meet me. When I did my presentation, again, I was really overwhelmed. I couldn't get back to my booth fast enough. There was a lineup of people, men and women, women wanting to buy the saliva hormone test, men like business owners, fitness trainers, all coming up to me and just thanking me for sharing that information. So it was a really big game changer for me, and it continues to grow and grow. We know CanFit Pro, they are a very welcoming community, and they really support you in your business and what you have to share as an expert. So as I said, in 2022 November, my book went #1. It took me longer than I thought. It actually took me a year and a half due to some personal life circumstances. It took me a little bit of a different direction. But to be honest, it also created a much more well-rounded book with the focus of self-care. I call it a gift of hope for women, because a lot of women are out there struggling to find their answers and their solutions when they're going through menopause and perimenopause, and it can be very frustrating and disappointing for them. The book is a great resource and a great tool. It has a lot of takeaways in there, checklists. I tell women to get a highlighter out, get a pen out, really start learning about yourself. There's stories of real women in there that I've met, and I think they will have some nice aha moments. One of the things that I've been able to do from that book is to create a hormone certification program. And the reason I did that was, again, to reach a broader community of women and men by starting to align myself with trainers, life coaches, and nutritionists who were missing that piece of hormone balance. And obviously I was on track at CanFit Pro because the trainers have started to realize that men and women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s will start to struggle with their fitness level because their hormones are out of balance. And even for life coaches, I wonder what it's like to work with someone if their hormones are out of balance, because now they're struggling emotionally and physically. Their clarity isn't there, they're in a brain fog, they're moody and irritable, so it's pretty hard, I think, to get them to their top of their game. So let's go back to the topic of today. It's called the power of hormone balance, but I could also call it the power of hormone imbalance, because what I want you to understand is hormones are the undercurrent that drives everything in our body. It is driving the bus, believe me. It is connected to so many different systems in our body that we don't realize. What I see in my career is if we don't do anything to support our hormones, at some point there is a tipping point. And what I mean by that is You may not realize that if you don't balance hormones, when you get to certain ages, it can actually start to lead to disease state, such as diabetes, high cholesterol, hypertension, insulin resistance. So it is a real game changer for us, and it's important that we pay attention because it won't just go away, it'll keep evolving into something else. So why do women struggle for answers during menopause and men? I know, again, the graphics speak to women, but I want you to understand that a lot of the information I'm presenting applies to men because we all have the same hormones. So why do we struggle for answers during menopause, perimenopause, andropause? Because we really don't know where to go. And I think we're pretty overwhelmed, we're not paying attention. We have a lot of responsibility in our life. We're a caregiver maybe to aging parents, we're busy at work and home, and we're just not paying attention, and all of a sudden we wake up and look in the mirror and realize that we're really not happy with the way we're looking, and then we're in a bit of a dilemma because we don't know where to go. And in reality, I think we're almost caught in what I call hormone toxicity with a lot of unwanted symptoms. And I'll tell you a quick story about a colleague of mine that came to me 3.5 years ago. She's 5 years younger than me. She was on 0 medication. She came to balance hormones. She released 7 to 10 pounds in 2 months. She decided to exit the program. And flash forward 3.5 years later, she's on 6 medication. She's diabetic, she's got cholesterol, she's got hypertension. One medication leads to another. She's on a mood stabilizer. She has major acid reflux. So I can't project the future, but I do know that if she had stuck it out, there's no way she would have been in that place at this time in her life. So what about male andropause? Because I am going to speak to men because we all have the same hormones. So it's not, like women think it's all about estrogen, it's really not. Men think it's all about testosterone. However, what they don't realize is their body could actually be overproducing estrogen. So if they started to take testosterone and their estrogen was high, it really wouldn't work to the way that they're expecting. And it's not just about sexual health, it's also about prostate health. So men are at high risk of prostate, women are at high risk of breast cancer. So what are some of the truths and myths of menopause? Well, to be honest, the misinformation drives me a little bit insane because of what I know. But I'm here to tell the truth, but there's a lot of myths and misinformation out there. And I think a lot of it, not judging, is probably driven by the drug companies and the pharmaceuticals that want us to be on hormone replacement therapy, whether it's the right treatment plan for us or not. The problem is, of course, where do we go to find our answers? Because whatever worked for your friend, your mom, your cousin may not be appropriate for you. Your doctor's maybe not, he's not going to give you the answers that you want. You can definitely go to the Wild West, I call it, at the health food store. Not putting yourself in harm's way, but probably spending a lot of money and not getting the results that you want. So another truth, as I said, doctors don't have all the answers, but I would say to my clients that's okay because you're not in disease state. And you probably don't want the answers that he's going to give you anyways, because he's probably going to he may put you in harm's way with the side effects of medication. Is hormone replacement safe? I have no idea. Even as a pharmacist, I wouldn't say yes or no. It's a really big gray zone. And if we're not tested properly and we're automatically put onto medication, that's not appropriate. We could actually become estrogen dominant, which is not what we want. So we're all different medical history, different degree of symptoms, different chemistry. So how can we cookie cut it to say, well, we all need this or we all need that, or this supplement will work for all of us? It just doesn't work that way. Our journey is affected by so many different things. Maybe, men are already having issues with prostate health. Women have had a hysterectomy. Maybe they've had an IUD that's getting removed. Maybe the client's diabetic, or they're already having issues with hormones because they're on thyroid medication. So it needs to be a customized program. That's the message I'm saying to you today. It's not a cookie cutter. It just doesn't work well that way. It doesn't, because we are all very different, and the best way to work a program is actually to multi-target it. So if you go to your doctor again and he wants to just put you on testosterone as a man or put a female on estrogen and progesterone, I would really question that. Because if you're estrogen dominant, you're just going to keep accumulating drug. So let's start by understanding your underlying chemistry. Let's talk a little bit of science. In my book, I talk about the secret, and the secret is the saliva hormone test, which I've been working with since 2007. It is a blueprint, it is a map, it's a template that tells us exactly where we are at this time and where we want to go to from here. There is no guessing and there is no assumptions. It actually allows us to make corrections when it's necessary and to narrow down our treatment options. Yeah, I'm going to try to use this. This is an example of a saliva hormone test. I don't know if you can see it, but this is a real client call that came to me. And if you look up here, she's in the menopausal range. She's actually estrogen dominant, and her cortisol is quite high as well, because she's outside the range of cortisol now. So when she came to me, she had been taken off hormone replacement therapy after 5 years with no other form of treatment given to her, so she went back to the way she was, only worse. Because her estrogen was high, at that point she would never have been a candidate to continue with hormone replacement therapy. What would have made her estrogen high could have been accumulation of drug, could have been the fact that she was overweight, and we store hormones in fat cells. Maybe it was her digestive system, or her colon function, her physiological systems, but she was accumulating drugs. So we had to look for ways to bring her estrogen down through weight loss and supplementation. And Colette will tell you that her weight came on in 3 layers. First it was hypothyroidism, then it was menopause, and then it was COVID. So she had those 3 layers with her weight. So now I know you're wondering, why would I not take a blood test and why would I do saliva? Because blood is a transport system, and if you think of it clearly, your hormones are going in and out of blood, they're not staying stationary. Hormones aren't active in blood, they have to go to different receptors in our body. So when we test through a saliva test, we're actually testing at a cellular level, which is the most accurate way to test. I'm going to try this pointer again, but I'm looking down here. So in functional medicine, which is what I work with, we're dealing with root cause. And what I mean by that is we're not using medication as a band-aid. We're really getting into the underlying current of what is causing the symptoms and conditions that a client may have. So I'll give you an example. A cause could be hormone imbalance, but the conditions could be multiple because of that hormone imbalance. The condition could be rheumatoid arthritis. The cause could be multiple. Could be hormones, could be weight, could be nutrition. There's lack of exercise, lack of motions. So that's how functional medicine works. We're not putting a band-aid on it. We're getting right down to the root cause of why this client presents these symptoms at this time. So remember I said it's not just about estrogen. I know that's all we like to talk about, but it's not. It's 5 hormone levels. And I always say I speak the language of hormones every day of my life. It's about 5 hormone levels. Also looking at your thyroid function and your adrenal gland, because they all go hand in hand. So again, when women think they're estrogen, they would tell me they have no estrogen. I would tell them that's not scientifically possible, actually. Your body still produces estrogen. It's probably coming from the adrenal gland. So I know I've touched a lot on estrogen dominance, but I just feel like I really want to drive that point home. If you are estrogen dominant, it's not a healthy place for you to be. It could put you at risk of, for women, it puts them at risk of heart disease, and it puts them at risk of breast cancer. So it is really a big game changer when it comes to deciding what are the best treatment options for us and which way should we go. So I was working with an affiliate on the West Coast, like an online trainer and life coach, and she didn't want me to put one of her clients on a weight release system, and I said, but she's estrogen dominant. this really isn't a safe place for her to be. If you get to know me, you'll find out I'm a really straight shooter. I don't sugarcoat it, I'm kind, but I'm very honest with people in what I see when it comes to their saliva test. There's a chapter in my book called Adrenal Fatigue, If Only We Knew. If only we knew when we were 45, someone would say to us, Tammy, you should start taking something to balance your cortisol levels because you're starting to go into perimenopause and that would really help your journey. But nobody tells us, so we don't really know that. So unfortunately, I think sometimes we wait till it really becomes overwhelming and then we're backtracking, which is a lot more work for us. But adrenal fatigue is not a diagnosis. It is a condition, though, that we commonly see for women in menopause and perimenopause and for men in andropause. The adrenal gland is a little gland that sits on top of the kidneys, and it's actually very powerful. It's part of our immune system, and it produces cortisol. And in the fitness industry now, we talk a lot about cortisol, because even the fitness industry is realizing now that they can't push women with cardio at a certain age. It really starts to work against them, because it actually can spike their cortisol. So really what they're best to do is resistance training, to be really more respectful of where that cortisol level is. This is actually, it's not her picture, but in my book there's a client I talk about, Heather, who she really suffered from adrenal fatigue to the point that she literally had to pull over to the side of the road to take a nap on her way to work. And she was in a really high responsibility job. She was running an insurance company. So, I mean, that's a really extreme case, but a lot of times with the adrenal fatigue, what we talk about is being tired yet wired, like we're on automatic pilot all the time. We just go, 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 because that's what we do. But in reality, our energy is really in the dumps. So some of the symptoms of high cortisol could be weight gain, insomnia. It actually spikes your blood sugar, which spikes your insulin, which can lead to diabetes. It actually negatively impacts your thyroid as well. So it's a good little piece of science when I'm trying to encourage clients to manage their carb intake or their sugar or their wine. We all like wine, but it does spike your cortisol, and it's really not, for some of us, it's not the best option, right? These are some of the symptoms of adrenal fatigue, but I just want you to understand that there is an overlap, so you can't compartmentalize. You can't say these symptoms are only part of adrenal fatigue. They could also be part of low progesterone, low testosterone. So this is why it's important to get that template of that hormone test. I want to speak a little bit towards weight release because that is a big part of what I do with my clients. But understanding that, again, as we age and get into our late 40s, 50s, 60s, that weight release becomes a really different, pieces of the puzzle for us. As I would say to my trainer, I love you dearly, but women will not lose weight with you at my age unless they are balancing their hormones. Even a trainer, I've had trainers come to me that they think they can crank up their exercise and they'll lose weight, but if they don't balance their hormones, it just won't happen. So weight release during menopause and andropause, again, it needs to be a custom fit. It's not a cookie cutter, and a lot of the old solutions that we would have tried and been successful in the past just won't work. Part of what I also teach my clients is what I call the 4 pillars of health, and again, this will apply to men as well. The 4 pillars of health are lifestyle, exercise or motion, stress management, and hormone balance. So just understand if all 4 pillars aren't lined up, there's a tipping point and other things are starting to go sideways for that client. They could have everything in place, but if they're living in a very stressful environment, then there's going to be obviously some ramifications on their health. If their hormones aren't in balance, again, they can't just exercise and overcome the symptoms that they have at this time. So all 4 pillars are important for all of us. So you get step 2, you get your test results, and then what? Again, let's talk a little bit of science. The best answer is always a multi-targeted program of natural supplements. And it's not, again, yes, you're going to target your hormones, but you're going to target your physiological systems as well. Meaning you're going to look at your liver, your thyroid, and your adrenal gland, and you're actually going to do it simultaneously, because that's the way your body functions. We're not going to a doctor that gives you a drug for this, and then next time gives you a drug for that. It doesn't work efficiently that way. It's very powerful when you put together a program of supplements based on that hormone test, married with the health assessment and really the history of that person, or as I would say, the story that they tell you when they come to see you. You'd be surprised how quickly clients can evolve with these natural supplements. And I'm saying within 2 weeks, most clients will see a change. Not full resolution, but definitely a change. So I just want to end by talking a little bit about self-care. I'm always encouraging people to pay attention and to be aware. Pay attention and be aware, and be an active participant in the management of your self-care. Be an active participant in the management of your self-care. Thank you.